All right, if everybody's ready, we can go on the record.
Greetings. I'm sorry.
We're now on the record.
Greetings and good afternoon to all of you. It is now 1 o'clock or 1:03 on February 23rd, 2022. We are conducting this hearing virtually via Zoom. We are here for a public hearing on abandonment petition AB 780 to consider an application received from Miles and Stockbridge PC representing Miller Development Corporation to abandon a public access easement off Landy Lane in Bethesda. My name is Michael Paylor, and I am the County Executive's designated hearing officer with the county's Department of Transportation. This right-of-way abandonment hearing is being conducted pursuant to Section 4962F of the Montgomery County Code. My role in the abandonment process is to receive testimony concerning the abandonment request and then write a report and recommendation to the county executive concerning the applicant's petition for abandonment. To do this, I will consider statements made during this hearing, written comments received within the comment period, as well as documents submitted to Ms. McCray to support or explain a position on this abandonment case. Please be advised that comments will be accepted until March 8th, 2022 at 5 p.m. My report and recommendation will then be forwarded to the county executive for consideration, and the county executive will then forward the report and his recommendation of the county executive's recommendation to the county council. It is the county council that will decide whether to grant or deny the applicant's petition for abandonment. For those who wish to submit written comments, please submit them to Ms. Tiara McCray at Montgomery County Department of Transportation, 100 Edison Park Drive, 4th floor, Gaithersburg, Maryland, 20878, or email them to tiara.mccray@montgomerycountymd.gov by March 8th, 2022. There are a few ground rules that we must cover before Ms. McCray introduces the abandonment petition into the record. First, please turn off or silence your cell phones. Second, as an issue of decorum, all participants must be given due consideration. Those seeking to offer comment following the close of the petitioner's case for abandonment are asked to be mindful of the time and limit their comments to relevant matters. If an interruption occurs, I will give that individual their first warning. If there is a second interruption, I will give that individual a second warning and they will be muted. If that same individual receives a third warning, that person will be removed from the call. And if there are several people making interruptions, I may close the hearing. Following Ms. McCray's introduction, the applicant will submit its case for why it believes the right-of-way should be abandoned. After the applicant has completed its case, those who have registered to speak will be afforded the opportunity to make relevant comments. Ms. Tiara McCray is a real estate specialist from Montgomery County Department of Transportation, and she will now present the case. Ms. McCray?
I'll make sure I unmute myself before I start talking. Thank you, Mr. Paylor, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiara McCray, and as Mr. Paylor noted, I am a real estate specialist with the Property Acquisition Section for Montgomery County DOT. My section is responsible for administering requests for abandonment of public right-of-way. As Mr. Paylor noted earlier, this process is governed by County Code Article 49, Section 6. The County Code details the County Council's authority to abandon a public right-of-way if it finds that 1, the right-of-way is no longer needed for public use or anticipated future public use, or 2, the abandonment is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents near the right-of-way to be abandoned. The subject of this case is a public access easement covering an approximately 1.3 acre parcel located at the terminus of Landy Lane in Bethesda. The PAE, or public access easement, was initially established in connection with preliminary plan number 1-98045, approved by the Planning Board on March 23rd, 1999, and later recorded among Montgomery County land records, Liber 20877, folio 313 on September 22nd, 2005, and later depicted on a subdivision plat number 22176. The previous developer, as noted in the PAE, was required to, and I quote, grant a non-exclusive easement to Montgomery County, allowing continuous public vehicular access through the property, including adequate access for Montgomery County emergency vehicles, in order to avoid the need for the rededication of the property. Since the establishment of the PAE, the property, never having been developed under preliminary plan number 1-98045, seemed to serve primarily as a surface parking lot to the adjoining Washington Episcopal School the school field. As a condition of the approved preliminary plan number 120150160, the applicant, as part of the project, must, I quote, dedicate and construct the extension of Landy Lane to applicable Montgomery County secondary street structural standards. Try saying that fast. Requiring the construction of a new cul-de-sac on the property where Landy Lane dead ends at the school's property. Site plan number 820150080 depicts the proposed redevelopment of this property. The applicant asserts in its petition that through the dedication of a previously abandoned portion of Landy Lane extending just north of the PAE and construction of a new cul-de-sac, it provides continuous public vehicular access and emergency access to Landy Lane. The Office of the County Attorney has advised through discussions with the applicant that because the property is subject to a public access easement having been used by the public, it is legally county right-of-way and thus requiring the need for this abandonment process today. As part of the administrative process, we have provided requisite notices to other public agencies, abutting property owners, and the public at large. During this process, we have collected a number of exhibits that I will now introduce into the hearing record. Give me 1 second, I will go ahead and share my screen, and if I could get a head nod indicating that everyone can see my screen, that would be really helpful. Awesome, thank you. Exhibit A is the abandonment petition. This letter that we received on June 25th, 2021 from the applicant's representative shows several exhibits herein, the first being Exhibit A, which is the Declaration and Grant of Public Access Easement, which is LIBR 20877 folio 313 that I referenced in my comment earlier, and then Exhibit B, which is plat number 22176, the subdivision record plat. It references Exhibit C, which shows relevant sections, of the West Bard sector plan. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. All right. So let's see. Exhibit D, which is the preliminary plan that I referenced, calling for the redevelopment of the property to a 121 unit age restricted multi-family residential development. And then Exhibit E, which is the site plan, and I will show larger depictions of this later. All right. Exhibit B is the Declaration and Grant of Public Access Easement that I referenced earlier, also depicted in the applicant's letter. Exhibit C is the subdivision plat number 22176. Exhibit D is the preliminary plan number 120150160 with pre-approval of the proposed multifamily residential development of the property. Exhibit E is the site plan showing the proposed redevelopment of the surface parking lot or PAE. Exhibit F is the executive order number 164-21 authorizing today's public hearing. Exhibit G is an aerial of the approximate abandonment location. Exhibit H is the comment solicitation emails that were submitted to county agencies. You'll note that there are 2 announcements that were submitted, one on September 10th, 2021, I will pause for a moment and note that we had an original public hearing scheduled for November 10th. Due to my error, I had sent out notices to county agencies requesting comments for the abandonment petition. However, they were sent to my outbox and they did not go out. And so we had to reschedule this hearing. And you'll notice on the second page of this exhibit, there is also another email that was sent out on January 13th. Okay. Exhibit I shows the same announcement that was sent out to public utility companies, also noting that there was one sent out on September 10th and then another sent out on January 13th. Exhibit J, let me focus in so everyone can see. Exhibit J is the Washington Times affidavit of publication advertising today's hearing and the registration process that ran on February 4th and February 11th. Exhibit K is the public hearing traffic sign that was posted in front of the public access easement. It also advertises the public hearing and the QR code that directed interested parties to the registration portal for today's hearing. Exhibit L is the Montgomery County Department of Transportation calendar event submission, providing notice of the hearing and registration information. Exhibit M is a HOA-CA contact list. It indicates all of the community associations and housing associations, homeowners associations, excuse me, that received notice of today's hearing. You'll note that the lines or the items listed in green, they do not have an email address, and so they did receive a notice via mail, and those with a red marking here, we received an undeliverable message for those parties. Exhibit N is the email that was sent out to those points of contacts just shown in the mailing list in Exhibit N. Exhibit O is the general public notice that was submitted to abutting and affected property owners, advertising today's hearing along with registration information. You'll also note on the next page that we sent notices out to those parties via certified mail, and that's the tracking information. And the notice was sent out on January 19th, 2022. Exhibit P is the Department of Transportation Development Review Committee comment dated November 2nd, 2021, with conditional approval, noting that the PAE should not take effect until the substantial construction of the cul-de-sac shown on the site plan, noting that substantial construction does consist of, at minimum, a base coat, curb, and gutter. Exhibit Q is a comment received from the Division of Traffic Engineering and Operations dated September 24th, 2021 with no objection. Exhibit R is a comment received from the Department of Transportation Division of Permitting Services Plan Review. You'll note that there was original comment that was dated on September 24th, 2021, providing an excerpt of an email from the representative from the Office of County Attorney, noting that the turnaround be built before the current right-of-way is abandoned and suggesting that construction and the abandonment happen parallel or could happen parallel to one another. Atik, who's the manager of the right-of-way plan review section, requested an update from the applicant on the cul-de-sac construction. You'll note here at the bottom of this email conversation that the applicant did in fact provide a response explaining their agreement with the abandonment being conditioned upon the dedication of the formerly abandoned right-of-way and substantial completion of the cul-de-sac. All right. That did not happen correctly. There we go. All right, Exhibit S is a comment received from the Division of Permitting Services, DOT, in the Fire and Rescue section, noting conditional approval as long as provisions of the approved preliminary plan are met, particularly the cul-de-sac as noted earlier in other comments, and also requesting that the approved fire department access and water supply plan be accompanied with their note, which it is on the second page. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It takes a while for it to load. It's a pretty large file. All right. Exhibit T is a comment received by the Planning Board, Montgomery County Planning Board, dated November 8th, 2021, recommending approval of the petition with the condition that the abandonment does not take effect until the condition cul-de-sac is substantially constructed to base coat with curb and gutter. Noting that the Planning Board approved the recommendation for approval for the abandonment. And the staff report goes on to explain that the subject abandonment has met all of the listed criteria for abandonment in section 49-63, subsection C, items 1 and 2 of the county code. And the report includes several attachments that have been read into record already, such as Exhibit 1 is the applicant letter, Exhibit C, which is the plat, subdivision plat, Exhibit D, which is the preliminary plan, and Exhibit E. Exhibit U is a comment received from WSSC Water dated November 8th, 2021, noting an 8-inch water main within the proposed abandonment area, and that any approval to vacate the public access easement would be conditioned on the applicant granting sufficient right-of-way for the existing structures, excuse me. Exhibit V is a comment received from Washington Gas dated January 24th, 2022, with no objection as long as their existing facilities can remain in place, and should later field observations indicate that the lines would not be able to exist within the public right-of-way, that the applicant or its client, or that the applicant would contact Colin Burke, the Maryland distribution engineer. Exhibit W is a comment received from PEPCO dated January 31st, 2022, providing an initial objection, but later requesting that the applicant provide a sketch or a drawing indicating an area for their equipment. And should any equipment be required to relocate, that it would be at the applicant's expense. Exhibit X is the applicant's response to PEPCO's comment dated February 20th, 2022, indicating that PEPCO equipment is located within a separately dedicated right-of-way to PEPCO, and that it will not be encroached or abandoned by this proposed development of the property. Exhibit Z, which is the right-of-way deeds to PEPCO that the applicant was referring to in the previous exhibit, LIBOR 2157, folio 153, and then you'll note here on a later page, make sure I have that right, 156. There we go. And then the second right-of-way deed, which is LIBOR 2157, folio 156. This is right-of-way between the former property owner and PEPCO. Exhibit AA, it is executed PEPCO quit claim request letter. This details the agreements that the applicant has had with PEPCO, noting that the existing facilities will be placed underground with costs to be shared between the applicant and PEPCO, and that PEPCO will move forward with quit claiming both easements that were read into record in Exhibit Z. And then finally, Exhibit AB, which is the applicant's public hearing presentation, which I won't click through as they will be presenting that here shortly. Thank you, Mr. Paylor. I'll go ahead and turn this back over to you.
Well, Thank you, Tiara. It's my recollection that we can move forward with the testimony at this time.
Would you want the applicant to do their presentation first?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Erin Gerard with Miles and Stockbridge on behalf of the applicant. With me today is also Laura Tellerico, my associate who's been assisting me on this matter. I'm going to try to share my screen to do the PowerPoints. Can everyone see that? Yes, okay. I was like waiting for a response, then I saw the thumbs up, so I apologies for that. Okay, I will try not to be repetitive. Many of the things in our letter were also covered by Ms. McCray a minute ago, so I'm going to try to kind of keep it high level. But as mentioned, Miller is the contract purchaser of the properties, very soon to be the owner of the property, who is requesting the approval of the abandonment of the public access easement, which is depicted in red on the aerial that's before you. As Ms. McCray noted, so River Road is to the left of the screen, bottom left of the screen. Landy Lane comes in. It dead ends right now at Washington Episcopal School, which is shown, hopefully you can see my cursor moving just to the north. Okay, good. So that's the Washington Episcopal School building. You can see it faintly here, but they often fence off the extension through, and that's private property beyond that fence. But they do use this parking area that's the subject of the abandonment for parking for their turf field, which they rent out for various uses. You can't quite tell on here, but when you come in, if you can follow my cursor, there's an entrance here, and cars can circulate around pursuant to the intent of the public access easement and come back out to go to Landy Lane. So it provides that turnaround for when you hit the gate for Washington Episcopal School. As Ms. McCray noted, the public access easement was established in connection with the 1999 preliminary plan. I tried to get some background. Actually, some of my colleagues handled this matter way back in the 90s as to why they subjected the entire property to a public access easement in exchange for the abandonment. No one seemed to recall the history there. So I would just note that this is an unusual case where there was a dedication for Landy Lane, as shown where my icon is, that was abandoned in exchange for this much larger public access easement, and that project never went forward. So what we're attempting to do now is to abandon the larger public access easement and go back essentially to a publicly dedicated right-of-way, and as I'll explain in a minute, a cul-de-sac for the Landy Lane extension. This is just a quick picture of the relevant language from the public access easement, which I believe Ms. McCray mentioned as well. It calls for the continuous public vehicular access through the property and adequate access for Montgomery County emergency vehicles. And this is an attachment to the public access easement that again shows what I described. So River Road coming off River, cars come down and take the long route around the parking area to get back out. And I would note, I've actually been out there a couple times for my daughters using that field, and there is quite a grade difference between this roadway and the parking lot. So if you're not careful, you can bottom out your car. So it's not exactly a very easy turnaround. This is an excerpt from the approved preliminary plans. Preliminary plan and site plan were approved in 2016 for 121 unit age restricted multifamily building. As noted, condition 9 of that approval requires the dedication of Landy Lane and this cul-de-sac that I'm showing with my cursor. This, where lot 2 is written in the hatching, that is the proposed building. There's a little courtyard, and then, as I mentioned, the turnaround. So this turnaround was the subject of much discussion during the preliminary plan proceedings to make sure that it adequately could accommodate emergency vehicles and regular vehicles to turn around quickly and efficiently, and was determined to do that. And that's why it's a condition of the approval. Again, as noted by Ms. McCray, the staff report for Park and Planning picked up the condition that we had agreed to with Montgomery County Department of Transportation and Montgomery County Department of Permitting Services in recognition of the fact, and if I can just go back one slide, that there will never be a time when there is not public access. So everyone was in agreement that to just abandon the PAE without anything else in place was not going to be acceptable. So what is going to occur is as soon as the cul-de-sac is constructed and it's defined substantial construction, what that means in the condition, as soon as that is dedicated and constructed, then the PAE will be lifted to allow for the redevelopment of the remainder of the property as envisioned in the entitlements. Again, a quick look at the planning board letter of recommendation. And then I realize this is a lot of colors and a lot of lines on a small plan, but that was, we have submitted the utility plan, and we did get comments from, as was noted, Washington Gas, WSSC, Pepco. The applicant has been working through those to really just to explain to them that their lines are, in the case of Washington Gas and WSSC, their lines are already within what will be the dedicated right of way. So there will never be a time at which their lines are not protected. They're going to go directly into a public right of way from the PAE. And so they're not going to be subject to being on private property at any point in time. And as noted, we had originally responded to Pepco regarding their lines, and the applicant, through the letter that was submitted this morning, has demonstrated that they have been working closely with Pepco to read, although it's really irrelevant to this proceeding because the lines would have been protected by the easements anyway, that they're working with Pepco to make sure that those lines are relocated underground in connection with the project. So as detailed in our letter, pursuant to section 4963C of the Montgomery County Code, abandonments are allowed upon a finding that either one, the right of way is no longer necessary for present public use or anticipated public use in the foreseeable future, or two, the abandonment is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents near the right of way to be abandoned. As we noted in our letter, although only one needs to be met to allow for an abandonment, we believe that both are met in this case. As demonstrated by the material of record and from my explanation, the current turnaround is pretty cumbersome and the grade is not great. This will facilitate a much easier turnaround for emergency vehicles and for regular vehicles who encounter the gate private property of Washington Episcopal School and need to turn around. So it will be a much safer and more efficient turnaround. We also noted, as was shown in the exhibits, that the West Bard sector plan calls for the redevelopment of the property. As you've seen in the exhibits, the public access easement currently covers the property corner to corner. So obviously no redevelopment could occur on the site as long as that public access easement is in place. So it needs to be lifted to allow for the redevelopment in conformance with the sector plan. And the county council obviously has adopted the sector plan as being in the public interest. Finally, the facts and circumstances have changed since the initial dedication of a recordation of the public access easement. As noted, that was predicated on a 1999 plan that never proceeded to development, and the assumptions upon which it was granted have obviously changed to give way to this new cul-de-sac, new dedication, and new proposed project that was approved in 2016. So with that, because it's, there's not a full-on abandonment, it's really kind of switching one for the other. We weren't going to do a more detailed presentation than that. As noted, Charles Druce is here on behalf of Miller Development if there's any technical questions about construction or the utilities that I can't answer, but I believe pursuant to the materials of the record in this presentation, we've met the burdens to show that an abandonment of the public access easement is appropriate in this case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So are there any other individuals associated with you, the applicant, that wish to make comments on this?
I don't believe so, unless Charlie has something I forgot. Nope. We can answer questions.
Okay, great. I don't have any questions at this time. I guess therefore we'll allow anybody or any individuals on the call who've registered to speak, do so and make relevant comments.
I believe I received notice from Mr. Gregg that he might be interested in speaking.
I just had two quick questions, and I apologize. I'm very much a layman, and but my child's a student at Washington Episcopal. As I understand the plans, there is still access from the new cul-de-sac to the gate at Washington Episcopal, so that they would be able to continue to use the roadway and Landy Lane to enter and exit the school. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And have you all had any contact with the school in terms of, like, you know, what construction disruptions would be and that sort of thing, or?
Very, very close contact. Yes.
Okay, great. That was my only two concerns. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Pugh, thank you so much. Tiara, do you know if anyone else wants to be afforded the opportunity to offer comments?
No, sir, no one had made note in their registration information, but I do know that Miss Angie had signed up to participate. I'm not sure if Miss Angie, you'd be interested in making a comment at this time.
But thank you for opening up to me.
You're more than welcome. Seeing no requests in the chat, Mr. Paler, I think you're good to go.
All right, if there are no additional comments, I'm declaring this hearing closed. As I mentioned earlier, the record will remain open until March the 8th, 2022 to accommodate any additional comments for the record. And please, if those comments do surface, please make sure that they're addressed to Ms. Tiara McCray, Montgomery County Department of Transportation, 100 Edison Park Drive, Gaithersburg, Maryland, 20878. And so with that, I call this hearing closed.
Thank you.
We're now off the record.